I think it's really good when you hear something different than you agree with to try to look at what you know about things to see if you agree. And I'll tell you three things that I looked at. I'm a family doctor, and when I talk with an adult patient, I spend 4 hours with them because I want to know them. And let me ask this audience, can anyone raise their hand for something more important than loving?
Harry. Sports.
You know, I never met two people with the same definition of loving. I'm actually thinking of the verbing, the doing of love. And maybe, you know, it feels like an evening to try to define what that loving is. It's that, I mean, maybe for children, if you have a parent that you know loves you, it's everything to do with what that is. Okay, and if you like somebody that's a friend, everything you like about what that is, we will call loving, the verbing of love. And so, if loving is the most important thing in life, then in a 4-hour interview with a patient, of course, I'm going to ask about what that is. And so I would ask a patient, what is your philosophy of loving? Because if we are thinkers, and loving is the most important thing, we can imagine we would think a lot about loving. And then I would say, not just, what is your philosophy of loving, but how do you carry it out? And in 41 years, never once has anyone been ready to answer the question. Never once. And also, I've told audiences for 24 years in 65 countries where they've all unanimously agreed that loving's the most important thing in life, and yet no one has ever written me their strategy for loving. So I come to the conclusion that we don't think about the most important thing in life. Secondly, where do we learn things? We learn them in school. And we have K through 12, 5 hours a week of math and science and history and language. But in my 24 years of looking all over the world, I haven't found one school that teaches 1 hour of loving in 13 years. 1 hour in 13 years of the most important thing in life. And the other thing is that people get together, friends get together, and they discuss things. They might discuss sports for all night. So I've asked groups of people if they ever got together with their friends and thoughtfully discussed as an intelligent discussion about loving. And I've never met a group of people that remembered that happening. And so, listen to how interesting it is. We don't think about it, we don't teach it, we don't discuss it with our friends, and yet it still comes up unanimously as the most important thing in life. That's the power of it. I'm starting to think that one of the reasons is that to protect the troubled world that we have, we put love as a feeling. Where I would suggest that if love is going well, your relationship with your parents, your relationship with your friends, with your partners, that it's because it's a thoughtfulness, that it actually is something that can be taught. You can have strategies for it. And that's why I started this workshop. I want you to know my goal. My goal is to point out to you that Camp Winter Rainbow is a safe environment for you to practice loving differently than you can outside of the world. If we were going to learn loving, we would want a place where it was safe to hug somebody, to be a friend on the first day, to be vulnerable. And what I'm interested in is you to think about this, and for the rest of the 50 weeks of the year, to go and think of strategies for loving yourself. Because there are thousands of ways just to love yourself. Because what happened when I interviewed my patients was less than 3% really loved themselves. So I found that almost nobody really loved themselves. So you can have strategies to love yourself. strategies to love your friends, to love your God, to love all people. If you were like me, I have a great concern with the future of humanity, with all of the trouble in the world, how much of a paradise this is, but so many people tonight are not in a paradise. And clearly, the thoughtful solution to all of the world's problems are inherent in loving. If we loved everybody, as you love the best, if you loved all people that way, we would have no violence and we would have no injustice. There would be, if anyone was hungry, all would be hungry because everyone would be fed. It would matter. And so I have a motive. I'm interested you in thinking of some part of this, discussing it this week with yourselves, practicing with people, maybe go up to people and just for fun, see if they'd let you hold their head and say, I love you, so that you're comfortable with it rather than nervously giggly. To find a voice so that if your friend is hurting in school, you can go up to them and share love with them. Normally in the adult workshop, I go through a pretty enthusiastic series of things that I love. And I would just say those 7 categories. But the thing, as just an example to gush about love. So I gush about friends, which for me is the most important thing in life. It doesn't mean that's for you, but for me, clearly, friends are above all of the other things in my life. And then I gush for the love of life, which really is loving everything you ever liked. That's the love of life, whatever you like. If it's avocados, that's part of it. So you can imagine in a healthy life that you have, not in a war zone, not in painful poverty, or even there are so many things to love that are free. Then I go into a love of nature, and I gush on nature. Then I gush on the arts. Then I gush on thinking, because I think ultimately the solutions to all the problems of the world will come from thinking, from choosing with your thinking where you're going to go and what you're going to do. And then I gush on caring. Those of you who've heard about our clown trips, and those of you who come back to Camp Winter Rainbow time after time, I would suggest that there's a part of that gush that brings you back here. You have a chance to care here where it's safe, and you may not be laughed at, to be caring here, to cuddle somebody. And then I finally gush on romance, because I'm in love and I recite love poems to Susan. And then I talk about strategy. Well, usually I show photos or pictures on our travels of very strong visual images of love strategies for